year. Yeah. So we are having 13 activity questions for week 4, and we will be having some practice questions for the same week as well. So we'll first start with activity-based questions, and then we'll move on to the practice. Again, as we have been insisting in each of the sessions, it would be really great if we can get a participation from all of you. If any one of you is interested in answering any of the questions, please feel free to raise your hand or mute yourself. And we are hoping to have a quality discussion for each of the questions. All right, so this is the first question, that which of the following is are false? Now, those who have already tried solving these activity-based questions, I hope they should be in a position to answer this question.
The second option and the third option.
Second option and third option. So this is basically asking for the statements which are false. So yes, as it was mentioned right in the first lecture, that Vue.js is basically a JavaScript reactive framework. There are so many others in the market as well, but we have decided to go with Vue.js due to certain reasons. So definitely first option is the correct option, and that is false in the context of this question, because it asks for all of the false statements. Vue.js is always rendered on the client side. This is not completely true, because it is also possible to make the templates render on the server side as well. So if you will go through the documentation for Vue.js, you will see that there are even some lifecycle hooks that get invoked even on the server side as well. And the third option being Vue.js requires the page to be refreshed to experience reactivity. So of course, that's not correct. The whole purpose of having a JavaScript reactive framework, this statement basically contradicts that fact. So that's why second and third option are basically the wrong options or correct options in the context of this question.
Sir, I have a question. Like the second option is always rendered on the client side is wrong, right? So
sorry,
like the second option, Vue.js is always rendered on the client side, is the wrong option.
Yes, it's a wrong
option. Do we mean that, like, that V model thing that we use is that one thing that binds to the backend or the database side, sir?
No. You are interpreting it in a wrong way. So V model has nothing to do with the backend. What is happening is everything is being done on the browser. This is what we mean by client side.
Okay.
When we say it on server side, that means the final HTML page is being transferred to the browser. So browser just has to render that page. The browser doesn't have to, execute that JavaScript code and then render the page. So what will happen in server-side rendering is that the server will actually, hydrate everything. That means whatever Vue.js code is written, it will interpret that and will put in the HTML elements there wherever required, and will send the complete rendered HTML page to the browser, and the browser will take care of that.
Okay. Yes, sir, I get it.
Okay. So the next question. Yeah, I guess the participants have started coming. Okay, so which of the following statements is true regarding Vue directives? So this time we have to tell which of these statements is or are true. The first option is click or add click can be used as a shorthand for V on column click in event binding. Yeah, that's true. So if we talk about the second option, both vif and vshow are used for conditional rendering.
If we use, not sure about
yes, saying something. I'm not able to hear.
I'm telling if we have used, not sure about the vshow.
Mukesh, can you try to be a bit louder, please?
I'm telling that we have used if.
Okay.
Not sure about vshow.
Okay, you have not used vshow till now. This is what you are saying.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah, so vshow can also be used for the same purpose for the conditional rendering. There is basically a difference between the two. What happens is that if you use vif or velse, what it does is it basically inserts the element into the DOM and removes the element into the DOM depending on the condition or the expression that you are providing as the value to this VE for whatever it is, right? But in case of vShow, what it does is it just toggles the CSS property. I hope you would have heard about the display property of CSS.
Yeah, right. So it's like a display of on and true and false.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So this is basically the difference between the two, and both can be used for the same purpose. Just the way they work is different.
Sir, can you please repeat it, sir? It's a bit confusing for me. Like,
Sure. No issues. So what VIF does is, so depending on the condition or the expression that you are providing to VIF. So let's say you write VIF equals to, let's say a variable value whose value is supposed to be either true or false. Now, if the value is true, whatever code you have written inside the scope of this condition would be executed, or I would say would become valid. Now, in that code, you might be trying to create a paragraph, you might be trying to create a button or whatever it is. Let's say you are trying to create a paragraph. So for one instance, let's say the condition becomes true or the expression becomes true. So what will it do is it will create that paragraph element in the DOM. Right? The paragraph was not present in the DOM earlier, but when the statement gets evaluated and it became true, that paragraph will now come into the DOM. Now, after some time, say that again the variable that was provided as a value to this VIF directive, it becomes false. So what will it do is whatever code that is written inside this condition scope, that is that paragraph again. Now that would be removed from DOM, right? Completely removed. Previously, it was inserted in, and now we are saying that it will be removed because the condition has become false. This is how VIF works. The same thing happens with VElse if, VElse. Okay. But if we talk about vShow, it is used for the same purpose. For example, based on a certain condition, we want to show or hide certain HTML elements. But the way it works is something is slightly different than VIF. So I hope you would have heard about a CSS display property, right? In case you want to, hide an element on the DOM, you can simply set the property of display to none. And in case you want to, get it back on your DOM, on your screen, you can just simply, toggle it to block. So you can toggle between the values block and none. So vShow works the same way. What it does is it simply changes the value to none in case the value provided to vShow evaluates to false. And in case that value becomes true, it again, brings it back onto the. So vShow just changes the CSS property, and VIF, it basically inserts and removes that element from the DOM. vShow keeps the element on DOM. The element is always present on the document object model. Just the CSS property gets changed each time depending on the condition or the expression that is binded with vShow.
yes, sir, I get it now.
Yeah. So in this question, what do you think? Which all statements or which statement is true?
All of the above.
Correct. All of them. So consider the following view application with markup index.html and JavaScript file app.js. So what it does is it basically creates three div elements, and inside the innermost div element, it creates a paragraph that says the messages, a placeholder or a mosaic expression for a data variable named message. At last, we see that there is a script that is associated with this HTML file. The script name is app.js, and this is what app.js has. So what it does is it creates three view objects. Please note it creates three view objects, and each of those view object is binded with one of those divs. So you can see that there are three divs, each of them having IDs app1, 2, 3. And in the same way, all of these objects are binded with elements app1, app2, app3, the IDs. And each of them specify message as their data attribute, having different values. One has Abhishek, Rajput, and Kumar. So what do you think that which value would be rendered in place of this message? So this paragraph is in the scope of div element having ID app1, app2, and app3. So all of these IDs are basically pairing for this paragraph. So what do you think? Which one will get the higher priority, or which one will actually override the others? Correct.
Out
Absolutely will
of-
override the others because it is the closest.
Right.
Yeah, it is the closest element to this paragraph element. So whatever aptly says the value of message to be, that would be shown here in place of this placeholder. So aptly says it is Abhishek. So the answer should be the message is Abhishek. By the way, heading. Okay. So here the answer would be the message is Abhishek. Any doubts in this question? I hope this is clear. So I guess we can move to the next question. Please let me know in case you are
So,
having any questions.
I
Yeah.
think on evaluation shows the ones correct answers.
You are not audible properly.
Sir, on submission, on evaluation, it shows Kumar is the right answer. I also did it.
Okay, it shows Kumar.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
so because I tried it and I
So
got
that's
this
not the
wrong.
correct answer. If that is the case, I'll get it changed.
Okay.
I don't want to click on check for answers right now. So we'll check it once we finish all of these 13 questions.
Okay.
So which of the following is true regarding, hey, by the way, the other person. So Mukesh, have you tried this question before? Is the answer something different from what I have selected? Just wanted to confirm, double check.
I have not tried, but basically I told it's that way. Let me type it.
Okay, okay, so we'll get it correct. So which of the following is true regarding computed property in view framework? So computed property is generally derived from reactive properties of few instances. Do you think this statement is true?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the exact purpose of defining computed properties in your view instance. Computed properties are also reactive.
Yes, it is also reactive. That's why
Yes,
whatever
definitely.
we are changing automatically reflecting into my SQL program.
Mukesh, I'm not able to hear you properly. I was just able to understand your first statement. After that was like quite blurry.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, I'm telling it, and it is a computer property. That's why whenever we are putting some counter, automatically given to our SQL page.
It again means the first two statements I was able to hear them properly. I'm not sure if that's only me who is facing troubles in order to. Sorry, Nandra?
He is not audible.
Okay, yeah,
Let me disconnect and reconnect one more time.
yeah, sure. Yeah, so first two options are the correct options for this particular question. The next question is also based on computed properties. So computed properties are by default getter only. What do you think? Is this statement true? So by default getter only means that we use these properties in order to get some value.
No, sir. They can be set as well.
No, we are talking about by default.
No.
Are you sure? The option says computed properties are by default getter only.
Yeah. By default, they are getters.
Exactly. So we generally use computed properties in getter mode only. We don't even use them, as setters in most of the cases. And yes, getter basically it suffices like for most of the cases that we are going to use in this getter. So yeah, it is by default getter only. It can be used as setter, but of course, by default is getter. A computed property should be directly mutated. Now, mutated means it can be changed. It should be directly changed. This is what the option says. The third option is just a contradiction of the second option. It says that it should not be directly mutated. So, would someone like to answer this? Second or third option, whether they are which of them is correct? Because one of them can be correct because one is the contradiction of the other. So what do you think? Which one is correct and why? Anyone? Okay,
Should
so
not be directly muted, sir.
correct. It
Because,
should not be directly changed. The reason we have studied or we have seen in the above option that computed properties are meant, to be derived from reactive properties,
yeah.
and we want them to be changed only when there is a change in one of those reactive properties on which computed property relies. And that's why we should not be directly changing them. We should not be directly mutating them. That's the entire idea of using computed properties. They should be changed based on the state of their reactive properties. And they will automatically, the computed property or those methods, those type of functions, they will automatically get invoked whenever there is a single change in any of the reactive properties. So yeah, they should not be directly mutated at all.
So you are telling that when we are writing a single JS, okay, we cannot use the same variable like count multiple times, right? Because
We cannot use the same.
same variable where we are going to store this computed property.
Sorry, I couldn't quite get it. Can you just repeat it once again?
For example, what Tejas sir has showed, like there he has created one computed inside that he created one count function, right? The count functions are used to whatever the message you are storing in the array. We are taking the length and returning, right?
Okay.
Suppose I am creating one more function with the name count, and I am putting some other I have some other variable and I am returning it. It will allow by the Vue.js.
So you want to create two computed properties, which are based on two different data properties, is it?
Yeah, but name is same.
But name is same.
Yeah.
No, only one of them will work. Two methods, they cannot have the same property. So yes, only one of them will work, and you will have to check that which one of them is going to work.
And this count the function which name we have given, that cannot be override. That's why you are telling it should not.
Sorry.
So it means this whatever the count variable count.
Yeah.
Which we are using, it cannot be updated by from any other function apart from that where we have given.
It can be updated. It can be updated, but it should not.
It should not. Okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay. So the next question, sixth question is, which of the following statement is correct for the Vue framework? Okay, we are seeing many questions on completed properties. So completed properties are cached based on their reactive dependencies. So the question is asking for a correct statement. Do you think this statement is correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's say the first option is correct. Now, of course, it is clear that it's an MCQ question. None other option can be correct, but let us just see that what other options say. Methods are cached based on their reactive dependencies. The third option says completed properties are not cached based on their reactive dependencies. So it's just a contradiction of the first option. Definitely, it's not going to be correct. So now the question is that what is the difference between computed properties and methods? Can someone answer?
What I understood that as you told now, methods are mainly used to write something. You can say something like mutator, where the computers are mainly used for the getter function.
So do you think that the computed properties cannot be used in place of methods?
I'm not sure.
I would say they can be. But the thing that makes them different is basically this caching. So see, what happens is that whenever our data variable value changes, right? So basically what Vue does is it re-renders the DOM, right? It basically refreshes the page and changes the value depending on the state of the variable, the current state of the variable. So in that case, what happens is that you might have written that method call, or you might have written that computed property call at many places in your HTML. So what happens in case of method is that whenever a re-render happens, that method gets executed. Doesn't matter if it is going to make an effect on the new page or not, or if it is going to make any change on the new page or not. It will definitely gets executed if there is a re-render happen. But in case of computed properties, it won't be executed. I'm talking about the function that is defined inside computed. It won't be executed until and unless basically the reactive properties on which or on the basis of which it is defined, until and unless they don't change. So what it does is that whenever there is a change in the reactive data properties, it executes the function, it fetches the result, and it basically caches that result somewhere. And whenever a re-render happens, it just uses the same cache value again and again, until and unless the same thing. That whenever there is a change in the reactive data variable, it automatically gets executed. And if there is no change and there is a re-render that is happening, it won't be executed. It will just use the cache value. But in case of method, it will be re-executed again. Doesn't matter if the value changes or not, or if it is going to make an impact on the new page or not, it will be executed. So this is the difference between computed properties and methods. So that's why we say that computed properties are, I would say that more optimized, or if we talk about performance, so of course they provide good performance.
Sir, methods are not cached based on the reactive dependencies, right? But as the values could be cached or something like that, or stored temporarily for use.
So what you want to do is you want to cache certain data attributes, is it?
Yeah.
Why?
Maybe like something like to render it whenever required or something like that.
Okay, you can
because,
do that, but
my question, because the sir in the lecture mentioned that watches cannot be cached, or yeah, something like that.
yeah,
Watches, well, only in that context is talked about the computer properties can be cached while watches will not be cached or something like that.
Yeah.
So why can't that be cached? Like,
so this is a fundamental concept that comes with computed properties, and that is why we use computed properties in order to derive some, or in order to compute some derived state based on the reactive data properties of a view instance. That is the entire purpose of defining computed properties, so that we can do some minimal calculations, and we can also keep our page optimized. We can also keep our website or web application optimized. Methods are used to perform some heavy tasks whenever we want to do high computations and all. In that cases, methods can be used, but of course we need to be careful that when and how many times we are making a call to that method. So these are the things that of course one developer needs to keep in mind while developing any web application. This optimization thing we'll be talking in lot more details going forward into this course in the last, I guess, 1 or 2 weeks. It is all about performance and optimization.
okay.
Yeah, hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, Naren.
Yeah, I wanted to add something what you said.
Yeah.
Like the caching here is like in different sense. Let's say you have created a computed property which prints the date, and let's say the time. So the time that the computer property returns will never change. But in case, because it's cached, but if you use the method and that method returns the time, so whenever you will invoke that method, the time will change. Like let's say if you invoke that method at 10 a.m. and then you again invoke that method at 10.10 a.m., then the time will change. But in case of the computer property, if once the value of the computer property is set, it will never change if it doesn't depend on the other dependencies, because it's cached. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, I get it.
Yeah, because once the value of the computed property is set, and if you are not changing the reactive dependencies, it will remain the same throughout the run of the application. But in case of the methods,
Whenever the
if you
method is called, it will change the
yeah,
value.
it will change the value.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily change the value, but it will make a call to the function. Now it depends on the method implementation.
I get it.
So the methods are generally the functions that you will invoke at certain point of time. But the computer properties are like a property. You will use somewhere as a property.
It's
As
like
a
an
property.
automatic property, like it.
Automated property.
And it gets invoked whenever we are.
So I would suggest that whenever you are thinking about the method, you think about a function. And whenever you are thinking about the computer property, think about a property. Property means variable. That depends on the different variables, and whenever you change those variables, dependent variable, it will independent variable. The computer property will change, but it's still a property. You will use it as a variable. But in case of the methods, it's a function. Functions which you call at certain point of time in your life cycle of application. Okay. So does it make sense? Yes, Abhishek.
Okay, so shall we move forward if this is clear?
Yeah, that's clear.
Okay. All right, so this is a small program that is written with the help of few directives. And we have to basically predict that what the resultant HTML would be if the value of this is active data variable is true. What do you think? What will happen if the value of this is active data variable that is defined here or that is being used here? So we are doing class binding here.
I think it will override the class 1 to class 2.
Sorry, it will override?
It will override the class 1 with class 2. I think it will be class 2. Class equals to class 2.
Are you sure? Okay, so just another question. Do you think that a single HTML element can have more than one classes? Do you think an HTML element can have more than one classes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It can have.
Yes, it can have
Correct. So what will happen is that this class 1 is basically something that is fixed, right? This div is definitely going to have this class 1. What is not certain is this class 2, because it depends on the value of this is active data variable. Depending on the value of this data variable, this class basically toggles. If the value of this variable is true, this class will be applied to this element. If this is false, this won't. So in case the question says that the value of this is active attribute is true, that means this expression becomes true and this class 2 will be applied. Now this div element is having two classes which are associated with it. One is class 1, the other one is class 2. And when we say that a single element having more than one classes, how do we basically represent that? We can have multiple classes, separating them by a space character. So this is what the first option is saying, that this div element is having two classes, class 1 and class 2. So this won't actually override it. This will just add whatever existing classes this element has.
No. Maybe I understood the question. So what is in the class 1 has the same property. For example, font is.
No, Mukesh, I'm not able to hear you.
Don't know. Can you hear me now?
It's better, but as you go through, it becomes I don't know. It becomes a bit unclear for me.
Okay, so maybe I have not understood the question correctly. So what I'm saying, suppose in class 1, I have one font as a class and it has a property like area, and class 2 has suppose version. So in that case, it is going to take the class 2 because it is the last property associated with that, right?
So you say that if there are basically two expressions here, this is what you are saying?
No, I'm telling suppose class one has some property. For example, font. Okay. So in class one, the font will be on the suppose bold, and class two it will be suppose italic. So in this case, when we are going to,
Can you just write it in the chat? Sorry, I'm not able to understand it.
I think he is saying that suppose you have defined some property for the class one, let's say font size
Okay.
or something, and for the class two, you have defined some different properties.
Okay.
And then will both the properties be applied on the element? Is this
Yeah,
what
right,
you're
right.
trying to say?
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah, the
this will
answer
depend
is
on the
correct,
browser. The cascading rule that browser follows, the CSS will be evaluated in the same.
Okay.
So if
No,
you are
but
having
if-
two classes, because two classes have the same precedence, so whichever is defined later will basically override that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but if they are different, then both will be applied.
Okay.
And if they are same,
probably-
then depends on the position of the definition where you have defined the class.
Okay. Okay, understood. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do the following program. Okay, so the answer to this question is this first option. So since this just asks that which classes will be applied to this div element, right now there is no CSS associated with it. So that's the first option, which is the correct one in the context of this question. So this is just the same. The only difference is, okay, the value of this is active is false. So this time it's going to be quite easy. Like it's only the class one that is going to be associated with this div element. I hope this should be clear.
Yes, yes. Now it's clear. Yeah.
Yeah, now your voice is quite clear.
Somehow it is connected to my microphone. Don't know.
Okay. Yeah, so following markup and JavaScript is this. What will be the color and font weight of the text hello world? So where is hello world? Okay, so hello world is here, and what you can see here is that this hello world is written inside a div tag whose style is basically binded with this style 1 and style 2 that is defined somewhere here. So style 1 is what? Style 1 says that the color is red, and style 2 says that the font weight is bold. So what this asks is color and font weight. So it's going to be red and bold. I hope this is clear enough, because
Yeah.
So these are just the two properties which are defined, and that's what is being asked in the question. So there should be no confusion. Shall I move forward? Is this okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, is everyone else okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Again, we are doing some style binding here, but what we are doing is what will be the color of font weight and the text. Sorry, the color and font weight again. 1 second. There seems to be something different. So this time we are just basically associating or binding this style 1, and style 1 just has color. So that means the font weight is not going to be bold. It's going to be whatever the default configuration is. So if we talk about the color is going to be, according to style 1, it will be red. But what do you think? What about font weight? What will it be?
It will be normal default value.
Exactly, it would be normal. So the answer here, it should be red and normal. Is that okay? Does this
Yes,
require
sir.
any explanation?
Yes, sir.
So which of the following is true? And okay, so this basically tells the difference between VIF and VShow. An element with VIF directive is always rendered irrespective of the condition's truth value. That is wrong, because we discussed that VIF inserts or removes the element from the DOM depending on the condition. And an element with VIF directive is always rendered. Yes, that's true, because we said that it just toggles between the CSS property. That's it. So first option is wrong. And since first option is wrong, that's why third option automatically becomes wrong. Is that okay? I guess we already had a discussion over this topic in one of the initial questions.
We so always return true.
Yeah. Okay, so if v-if and v-for is used on the same element, I guess there is a repetition of this text here. So which of the following is true?
Of course, it is just depend upon the order how you are calling it.
Are you sure? No, that's not the case.
Okay.
V4 is evaluated first.
Yeah, v4 is evaluated first. So if we are talking about v2, yes, v4 gets the high priority. In case of v3, it's v-if that gets higher precedence over v4. I'm not sure if this option is configured correct. We'll see.
It's configured wrong, sir.
Okay, it's configured wrong. Okay, all right. So there are two options which are configured wrong.
One minute. Can you go up?
Yeah.
So you are telling in the same element we are putting v4 and also we are putting v, right?
Yes, correct.
And then if some so just for my own knowledge, so if I need to use some like v else if, then again we need to write a separate you can say statement against the before, or what I'm doing in the normal programming when we are writing a for loop, we can put that if clause and else clause. So in the term of Vue.js, how you are going to show? Okay, maybe after this question you can show us.
So in case you want to use v-else, you can again create a new block. Right? It's not mandatory for you to put everything into a single element.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So which of the following is a true regarding a ref attribute in Vue? So it allows us to directly reference the DOM element. Ref can be accessed only after the element is mounted, can be accessed before the element is mounted, and none of the above. What do you think? I think ref is not going to be used very extensively. We are anyway not going to use it. We'll be using Vue things like v-model in order to achieve what vref basically provides us. So yeah, means we can use it in order to reference any DOM element, and since it is referencing something on the DOM, we can only access it when the element is actually mounted. How can you access anything that is available on the DOM when the DOM is not even mounted? Okay, so all right, so there is question 3. And this question number 12. Okay, I'll get it corrected right after this session. Okay, so yeah, they have basically configured wrongly. I hope you have understood that why these options are wrong and what is the correct option for each of those. Was it that one? Okay, yeah, I guess we already had a discussion for both. All right, so we are done with the activity questions. Do you guys have any doubts, or shall we move to the practice questions?
Just one question.
Yeah.
In normal programming, we are writing nested for loop also.
Yeah, okay.
So how we are writing this nested inside the Vue.js?
So
okay, maybe after a practice question, I want to know how you are writing.
I can just give you an idea.
Yeah, just give me an idea.
So what you can do is, let's say there is one element P, and what you are doing is, let's say you are iterating over a list called it can be A, okay, list in A. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying that I in, let's say list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, simple. And after that, you are basically applying a v-if expression that checks, something. It can be anything. Right? For example, C is a variable. You are checking if it is greater than 5. Something like that. So what I'm doing is I am basically writing both of these expressions, v if and v for, in the same element. And now I'm going to close. I'll write something here. Of course, it will not be this. What I would want to do here is I would want to show this value somewhere or do something with it.
But there can be some condition that if my value is greater than 5, then only you go and render this for loop. So in this case, if you are going to use this v if before the for, then what will happen?
Again, it won't matter. It's the v for that gets the priority in case they both are being used together.
Oh,
I think I even wrote a discourse post about that, or maybe I can show you on the Vue.js documentation as well. So this is basically the documentation for Vue 2, or sorry, Vue 3. You can see that vuejs.org. So it has some different meaning of it. So if you will read that when they exist on the same node, v if has a prior priority than v for. And since v if has a higher priority, that means you cannot use any attribute that is defined in v for in your v if condition. So this is what it says, that it is going to give an error in case you will try such thing. At the same time, if you are doing it in v2, doesn't matter which one is defined before, it's v for that will get the higher precedence. Can just open this. See. I'll have to.
it is there before with v if. After template.
Okay, v if.
Yeah,
v
right.
for with v, here it is. So when they exist on the same node, v for has a higher priority than v. So this is what the Vue 2 documentation is.
Also in version 1, it is v if is higher priority, and version 2, v4 has higher priority.
Correct,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So,
But it is
you know,
not
since v4 has the,
recommended
sorry,
So they're telling it is not recommended to use both together.
it's not recommended. Yes.
Okay.
So that's why I mean, of course, they can be used in separate blocks.
Yeah, right. Because if you have to take this variable and put in the v if, it will not work. Okay, I got my answer. Thank you.
Okay. So, okay, we just finished with the activity questions. We'll move to the practice part of it. All right, so we are going to get a lot of code snippets here. So consider the following Vue application with markup and JavaScript file this. What will be rendered by the browser? So if you will look at the HTML, what it has is it just has a div element whose ID is app, and it is having a placeholder for this message. What app.js does is it creates a Vue instance. It initiates the Vue instance with this OPT object. OPT object says that this instance is going to be binded with an element having ID app, and the data is having one property that is message and which is welcome, or whose value is welcome. So what do you think? What's going to be rendered on the screen? After declaring this object, we are also saying that app.message equals to welcome to IITM online ticket. So yeah, this is the code that you should be looking at while answering this question. Do you think that the message will change to this, whatever is written after declaring the view instance, or it will remain the same? That is welcome.
It will remain the same, welcome alone.
Sorry, it will.
It won't change. Like
It won't change.
welcome.
Sir, I think it can be changed because we can change it in console, so it can be changed here also.
Yeah, definitely it can be changed. So what will happen is the output for this portion, it should be welcome to IATM online degree. So you can definitely change the properties. That's why we are, assigning this view object into a separate instance. If we do so, then we can access the properties of this instance. If we don't do so, then of course we cannot do that. But since we have done that, we should be able to access the properties that are defined inside this instance. So welcome to IATM online degree will be the message that will be shown in place of this message placeholder. You can try that as well. It's not going to take a lot of time.
This constant is not going to stop it. This const app you have written.
See, what you have done is you have defined this app to be constant.
Okay.
You are not changing the object reference.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, welcome to. Sorry, are you saying something?
No, I got yeah.
Yeah, so welcome to IATM online degree is the answer that you would expect from this code. If this is okay, shall we move to the next question?
Yes, please. Yes.
Again, we have something here. So it has written that div directive here. We have to select something. If the app renders hello IATM in red font color, so hello IATM is here. What is the possible directive for directive mentioned in the div with ID app? So we basically need to predict the value of this directive so that we can see this hello IATM text in red color. So can someone tell me what it should be? This is itself an HTML tag. Okay, let me show the options as well. What do you think? What will happen now? Oh, sorry, or which of this option is going to serve the purpose for us? Definitely, it's not going to be vbind, because vbind, it's used for achieving one-way data binding, but that's not what we are looking at right now. What we are saying is that we want hello IATM message to be rendered in red font color. And what we see that what is specified in this text string is that it is our definition for a paragraph element that defines the CSS property using style attribute and says that the color should be red. The text that should be rendered is hello IATM. So whenever we have any HTML code and we want to get it rendered on the screen as it is, we use vHTML directive of view in order to render some HTML. So this text, it must be some HTML code that should be rendered. So what will happen is that this hello IATM will go as a text inside this div. That's what vHTML will help us with. Vbind, it is used for some different purpose. It is used for one-way data binding. That means you want to use some data value from your view instance to check some conditions or to do something. In that case, this is going to be used. Is that okay?
Can you just explain vbind once again? vHTML, we got it. Okay, it will go and it will render the data.
Yeah.
Vbind one-way direction.
Yeah, it is one-way data binding. It is helping us in order to achieve that. So you can just think of some other examples of vbind. I think we used it in the previous session itself. Let's say you want to get some value from the view instance and you want to use it to perform something on your HTML. Then you can use that in order to check for a condition or in order to assign some value to something else. This is where you can make use of.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So consider the following view application with again this markup and the JavaScript. So if the application toggles between dark theme means the color is white, color means text color, background color is black. So this is dark theme means background color is black. Okay. And normal theme is color is black and background color is white. on the click of a button with text change theme, what can be the possible definition of Google theme method? Okay, Google theme method is here and change theme is here. Okay. What can be the possible definition of Google theme method? Assume that the application is running on a common browser which displays black colored text on white background. So these are the 4 definitions given for this Google theme method. What do you think? Which one should be the preferred or the desirable implementation?
I think it will be first option. So
First option.
yeah. So whatever value we are getting, when you click it, it will change to other value.
Okay, what's wrong with second option?
It's a double equal. I think it's comparing.
Yes, it's comparing. What's the issue with third?
Oh,
Sir, this keyword is missing.
yeah, this keyboard.
Exactly. You need to use this reference for referencing the properties in the view instance. This is doing something else. So yeah, the first definition is correct. So which of the following is true regarding computed properties? It is a function which is triggered when the data it refers to changes. It is calculated each time it is used. It is generally used when some property is used at multiple places in an application.
First and 3 are correct.
The first one is correct, yes, because it only changes when the data or the reactive properties it is referring to changes. And the third one is that, yeah, it is generally used when some property is used at multiple places. Yes, you can make use of computed properties at many places in your application. So yeah, this is quite possible.
No, I think second is not correct. It is calculated each time. It is taking from the cache, right?
Yeah, so that's why it's not correct.
Yes.
So regarding view watchers, it is a function which is triggered when the property it refers to changes. Do you think it is a valid statement for watchers?
Yes, so.
Okay. Watchers are defined inside the watch object.
Yes.
Yes, this is also correct. So in that case, both the A and B options are correct. That means C is correct. So consider the following view application with markup index.html and JavaScript file app.js. So if we look at the HTML, what we see is that there is a script that is associated with this HTML. The name is app.js. And inside the HTML part of it, we see one component that is comp1. If we will look at the JavaScript implementation, so we'll see that you have created a new instance that is EL app, and you have created a component that says the template is going to be this, the data is going to be this, and all. What do you think? What's going to be the output? So this says that comp1 on the HTML, and this is what the JavaScript implementation looks like.
This is component 1.
No. The answer would be
Error, so like no text will be shown.
yes. The reason is that you have created this component, but you have not, I would say, binded this component with your view instance. How this comp1 will get to know that there is something comp1 in your view instance? Is there any relation between this comp1 object and this view instance?
No,
So
nothing is there.
no, correct. There is no view.component.
Yes. So there are basically two ways from which you can register components. One is global components, as you just mentioned, view.component. The other way is you can register components by specifying the different components inside the components attribute of this view instance itself. Like you define methods, like you define computed properties. In the same way, you can define components as well. So right now, none of the way is being used. So that's why no text will be shown on the browser. The other thing that that is to be noted here is that the data here is basically an object. But when we define data for a component, it should be a function that should return the attributes, or that should return key value pairs. If you are using data this way, the data properties, even if this component is binded with the view instance, this is not going to.
It
I'm
has to
talking
be
about
written
data
da-
properties.
Yeah, it has to be written data bracket name. Then only.
Correct. Yes. It must be a function. So here we are doing something. So if you will look at it, we are defining an ordered list. There is a component called com. We are using v for init, and we are basically passing one prop here, message that we are getting from this messages list. So if we see that in messages, there are 3 objects. This is message 1, this is message 2, this is message 3. So this is message 1 will be the first message that will go inside, and that will go as a prop to this component. When we say that this is message 1 goes as prop to this, or what it goes is, okay, sorry. What it does is it basically sends this message in messages. So this entire object is sent as a prop. And when the entire object is received as prop here, what we are doing is we are just trying to extract the message property from. So message is representing this entire object at once, like this line up. This message colon, this is message 1. What we are doing is we are extracting the message attribute value from it, which is this is message 1. In the next iteration, it is going to be this is message 2. In the next iteration, this is going to be this is message 3. So all of these 3 messages will get rendered one by one on the screen. So now the question is that what will be the correct output? Which tag we are using? We are using OL, ordered list.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So there are 2, 1, 2, 3 here. The first option and third option. So the only difference between the two is that you can see these single quotes around the messages. In first one, there are no single quotes as such. So first one would be correct.
Yeah.
No single quotes will be rendered when it will appear on the user. Sorry. Yeah, it is correct. So A, which of the following is true? View framework can be used for creating single page applications. Of course, this is correct. We are going to be using this framework quite extensively for creating such SPS going forward. Vue.js can only be used in backend development. Do you think this is true?
No, we are using for the front end development also.
Yeah, correct. The third option says that a Vue application cannot be integrated with an API. So right now we are currently in 4th week. Yes. So from the next week onwards, you will see the involvement of API, because what we are basically trying to do here is that everything should remain on the front end. The only place where backend should come into play is for the purpose of fetching the data. We'll just fetch the data from the backend, that's it, via an API, and we'll use that data in order to get it rendered on the front end using. That will be taken care of by Vue itself. So we are not going to put any load on the backend to basically firstly to fetch the data and after that to hydrate the HTML pages. This is not going to happen this time. What we are doing is we are just relying on the backend for getting the data, and we are using that data on the browser itself to be displayed in whatever format we want it. So that's why a Vue application is can be very well integrated with an API. We are going to use a lot of we are just going to use a couple of lifecycle hooks for doing those, mounted and created. These are the two lifecycle hooks that we are going to be using precisely. So only the first option is correct here, that Vue framework can be used for creating SPs. That's it. The other 2 options are wrong. Of course, none of the above is not correct. So yeah, all the options are correct. So yeah, any questions so far?
Can you explain a little bit about this watcher?
So the purpose of using watchers is to basically to execute a set of code whenever there is a change in the property for which the watcher is listening. For example, what we want is that there is a data attribute, let's say value. or let's take a real life example. Let's talk about Amazon. There is a data attribute that you are using for maintaining the price, or let's say for maintaining the stock. That would be a better example, for maintaining the stock of a particular item. And there are many users who have subscribed for a notification whenever that item is available. So whenever the value of the data attribute changes, what you want is you want the notification to be sent out to all of the subscribers, right? That this particular item is now available and you can come and book your stuff. So that's where the watchers will come handy. What you will do is that whenever there is a change, you can check even for check for what value you are looking for. Whenever that value gets associated with that particular variable, you can execute a set of.
It's like broadcasting.
I gave that example in that sense, but it can be used for any other purposes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Understood.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything else that you want to ask? Okay. So, if you talk about practice lab assignment, I forgot about that. Create a password input field with labels, keys one number, and special character. Have a red background. Let's start typing. The background color of the labels will change accordingly. Okay. It has. Okay. I even asked this question in the beginning of this session. I guess there were a few more people have joined that session after that. So any one of you has tried doing that? This practice lab assignment, this password meter application. Okay, looks like no. By the way, has anyone even thought about the approach that what they are going to use for approaching this assignment? Well, this is not a graded lab assignment, as we have been saying. This is something that is given for a practice purpose solely. So we encourage all of you to attempt all of these assignments, as these are going to help you in gaining enough familiarity with the core concepts of what we are learning here. I think we can discuss this problem in one of the live sessions as well. Once all of you, attempt this assignment and, come up with at least a basic approach.
Yes, agree. Let us try first.
Yes. All right.
Can you a little bit explain about this Emit functionality where we are binding?
Sorry, which functionality?
Emit.
So Emit, the entire purpose of using Emit is basically to inform the parent. So when we work with components, what happens is that a parent can have multiple components or can have a specialized hierarchy defined for it. That a parent can have a child component, that child component can have a child component in itself. And let's say what you want is you want to transmit some information from child to parent, because whatever activities are happening inside the child component, parent is not aware what is happening. In case there is some functionality that rely on the parent or that requires you that the parent should be notified of this thing. So in that case, you make use of this Emit function so that you can let the parent know that this event has occurred. You basically emit events so that you can transmit information from low level to high level. From low level means I mean child, and to high level means I mean parent. To just let the parent know that something has happened, or you can even pass some small information like some data. I think one of the screencast should have covered that, but I'm just giving you an overall idea. The entire purpose of using Emit.
No, what Tejas sir has given, that I understood that you want to have some global counter and all are a different components. So you are putting what I told from the child to parent it is passing.
Yeah.
Apart from that means in the actual application where it is used. This is a dummy application understood, but in reality or in actual application.
Yeah, let's take the Amazon cart example itself. So let's say you are on the checkout page. Let's say you are having 5 items in your cart, and each of that cart is basically one component. Now,
Okay.
let's say what you do is you just increase the quantity of one of those items. What you did is you made one change in one of the child components. Now, what you want is you want the total cost to be updated, right? Because total cost is being shown on the page. That is not a component. That may be a component, but it is basically something which is different from the other items, from the other components. Now, as soon as you click on that plus icon, so that the quantity of one item is increased, you want the parent or you want the total cost to be adjusted accordingly.
Okay.
So what you will eventually do is whenever the user clicks or hits that plus button, you emit an event that is caught at parent and that performs the required option. Required processing.
Okay, like in JavaScript, we have to, when you are pressing it, we will go and again recalculate and just refresh that item. Here,
Yes.
using this emit functionality, we can do very easily.
Yes, correct. So of course, when we are, well, the entire purpose of using component is basically to have a modularized application, so that you can make your code as much modular as you can, so that you can separate out different functionalities, so that whenever someone else or you yourself is reading your code after a certain time, you should be able to understand which component is written for what purpose. If everything is written at one place, it becomes difficult to debug, even to understand after some time. So when we are using components, we need some way so that those components can interact with each other, and those components can interact with the parent test for performing whatever operations that are required. So this is where we use Emit in order to set up communication between parent and child. Of course, for parent to child, you can use props, but from child to parent, you can use Emit. In the sessions going forward, we will see that we are going to use something called Vuex that is specially designed for this advanced state management. There we are going to get rid of all of this, child to parent, Emits and props. We are going to use a centralized store in order to, keep the common data of the application at a single place. So that would be called single source of truth. I don't want to get into it right now, but yeah, I'm just giving you an overall idea what we are going to do going forward.
Okay, thank you. Just one more thing.
Yeah.
Is any big applications has made on this Vue.js or
Yes,
Angular?
there are products which are built using Vue.js. I may not be able to give you the right names, but I would be able to give you in the next session, by the next session.
Because I am also working as a developer in .NET area.
Okay,
In .NET we are using JavaScript more, as you told. Okay, so I am also thinking that how we are going to take that, and JavaScript when we are writing, it's a use code. What you told, agree, it is very difficult to maintain. If one person will come and write anything, then we have to go and ask why written. Okay, then we can.
Well, there is one common chess application that I remember. What's that exact name? That's quite popular. I have played that quite a many times previously. I'm not able to remember the exact name, but that is built using Vue.js.
Let me try to apply this logic. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I get back with some other names as well. The next. Okay, I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Regarding the difference between the application state and the ephemeral state in week 3, sir.
Yeah.
I get confused between these two.
Okay. So see, what ephemeral or UI state is, what we basically call, UI state is some temporary information. That is not going to be on the screen for a large duration. There were some examples given in the slide itself that, for example, I'm not sure if I'm revealing the answer for one of the graded question. I have to check once. But yeah, basically some temporary information that is available for shorter duration. That is not expected. That is not expected to remain on the screen for a very long time. Or you can even say that basically the current information that is visible to the user. Well, I saw this thread on the discourse as well. Maybe it would make more sense if I can basically come up with more examples. Right now, the examples that are in my mind, yes, they are already in the graded questions of this particular week. So, so I'll probably just think about a few more examples, and I'll probably get back to you with those.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You can take example of like our news channel whenever any elections are going on. So they are displaying the result, and if your multiple states are going on, so one state will come again, it will go again, another state will go. So that type of application also you can consider like UI state, empirical state. So it's lasting very less time.
What you're saying is election results.
Yeah, like if you are going for 5 state election result,
Okay.
then it will pop up one state, then again it will come second state, third state, like that. So it's actually because it has to refresh every time. So instead of refreshing, they are changing the states, and then they're pulling the data in the backend and showing it.
Okay, maybe, but maybe I'll think about it. I'll see that if I can get some more examples from somewhere. Yeah, anyways, thanks for it. I'll also think about it. So Joyce, do you have any other question apart from this?
No, sir.
I'll get back to you for this.
No, sir. No.
Okay, anyone else having any other question? Yeah. So we would request each one of you to please attempt those practice lab assignments. It is going to be a really interesting exercise. We will be having such type of practice lab assignments in each of the week coming forward. And I hope you all will enjoy solving those. So the next week is going to be more interesting. So I guess the content has already been released for week 5. You will start, integrating APIs with your new applications. That is where this course will start becoming more interesting, because till now what we were doing is we were just working on the browser or on the client end entirely without fetching any data from the backend. Now we have the APIs in place, so we should be able to interact with the backends as well, and we should be able to fetch the data and use it in whatever way we can. All right. Okay, so is there anything else from your end?
No, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Okay, so in case there are no more questions, I guess it's a good time to formally close this session at this point. So once again, thanks for joining in this session with us, and we'll meet you next week again on Tuesday. Hopefully, you all would have attempted that practice lab assignment, and we will have some discussion over that in the next session on Tuesday.
Yes, sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks everyone. Yeah, have a good weekend. Bye-bye.